What is up, everybody? Coop here, and yes, I'm back playing Divinity Original Sin 2. So today I decided I wanted to get really back into my builds and actually get back into playing this game just a tiny bit more. I couldn't get enough of it. It's been sitting on my desktop and I just keep looking at it and wanting to return. So today we're actually going to be diving in and checking out one of these awesome modded classes of the Succubus. So without further ado, let's dive in. So jumping into what mod we're going to be doing Helene's Succubus class. I think it's Helene or Helene. She's a really awesome creator. She makes, honestly, some of the best class mods in Divinity Original Sin. A lot of hers are really balanced, which I kind of enjoy because it's not overpowered like some of the Overlord mods and everything. This one actually has a lot of potential and a lot of really cool things out there. So this one's going to be focusing on a lot of debuffs, seductions, health stealing, all that type of stuff. It kind of mixes up a little bit of the rogue and scoundrel abilities. So I think that's going to be really interesting to jump into. So without further ado, let's jump into the build. So jumping into the Succubus class, I chose obviously Sybil just because she kind of fits the bill a little bit more. She has a way of increasing her damage output and, you know, giving you that extra action point. Corpse Eater to get yourself a lot of different spells a lot earlier in the game. You know, having this to where you could break out of your shackles, and having Lore Master is always a great way to start. Succubus actually has a build preset, which is super nice compared to most mods where you have to like go and hunt in different trees. Now, if you are trying to do a multi-build, you can use it with Scoundrel. It's in the Scoundrel tree. However, I have had some weird, like, not so much glitches, but some issues sometimes where it won't show up in the Scoundrel tree. But just try it out, or maybe just go to the Succubus class and then kind of build it off of that. But that's something important to keep in mind. Now, it does come with a default of Finesse, Intelligence, and Wits, which is kind of a weird all-around build. I was really confused about it in the beginning, but then I realized most of these things do damage to magical armor, so it is not a bad idea to have some intelligence in there, just to be able to use different spells. I also noticed that there's Aerophurge in there, and that's mainly because actually a lot of these things use air damage and piercing damage. So it actually kind of makes sense. It took me a while to figure out why, but I understand perfectly why they did that. So this character kind of works like similar to an enchanter. It's a lot of different things of sleeps and different spells and stuns and trying to basically, you are the person that helps get rid of targets or delay and weakening stuff. It's a really awesome class that is good in a party setting. Now, starting off with the 3 skills you begin in the start is Serenade, which basically does magical damage, and then on top of it puts the target to sleep for 1 turn. Very nice, awesome stun, as long as you destroy their magical armor. Now the next one is Blow a Kiss, which basically you just do 2 to 3 air damage, and I thought that was the only thing it does, but it actually sets a weak status to them, giving you a lot of opportunities of really weakening your foes. So you have ways of doing stuff to where you can put something to sleep, you can weaken them, so you can see sort of how this build is starting to go along. Next one is Dominatrix, which is a piercing ability. Piercing damage basically means that it can go past the armor and go through it and deal direct damage. Very helpful skill, especially when partnered up with Sybil's ability. Now this also restores you damage you've dealt and has a chance of taking away their weapon. So now you have a way of weakening them, you have a way of taking their weapon away and making them do no damage hardly, and then on top of it you have a way of sleeping. So by doing all these things combined, it's really awesome. Now this one does use, has a resistance with physical armor, and you're going to start to notice that some of the abilities go physical armor and some go magical armor. Once again, I'm telling you this, Sybil as a Succubus is really good in a party setting. You can adapt to whatever situations you want with this class. This class is really awesome with kind of going right down the middle and doing what is needed to be done in a party setting. You're not going to be the one that makes the plays, but you're going to be the one that changes how the battlefield goes. So putting points into Finesse and Intelligence is not a bad idea. You're going to be probably dual wielding maybe a wand and a dagger, or both daggers. It depends on kind of how you want to build this Succubus, which is really awesome because it gives you a variety of ways to build this class. So, with that in mind, let's actually look at the talents. The talents they actually give you right in the beginning is Leech, which is a good one. It's not a great one, however, but the fact that it gives you an alternative way of healing is pretty awesome. Now, there are a few other ones out there, like Escapist, which is pretty good if you really want to get into the rogue mentality. There's a lot of other ones if I can actually find. Hothead's a really good one. And then the one I actually would suggest is, if this thing would scroll, we have a good old pawn. The pawn. So the pawn basically gives you a whole free action point of movement, so this allows you to move across the battlefield to make sure you hit those targets that you really want to. You can get Far Out Man as well, but Far Out Man just doesn't quite hit the bill because most of these things are up close attacks. You can also later on get Torturer when you start to get some of those other effects out there, such as Burning, Poisoned, Bleeding, Necrofire, Acid, Suffocating, Entanglement, Death Wish, Ruptured Tendons, all types of stuff. But you can worry about that later on. You don't need to get that right at the start, but Torturer is a really good one later on because, you know, you are the debuffer. You are the person that's going to be doing lots of debuffs and all types of things out there. So without further ado, let's go throughout Fort Joy and jump into Act 2. Now, jumping into Act 2, you can actually find your vendor right here, and then you can find Lyra in Act 1 right up in the beginning. So basically, she's right here. You talk to her, and you can get all your magical books here. So obviously we're going to get every single one of these, and we're going to actually dive in and look at some of the things going on with the class. And we're going to buy the gear that they actually suggest here. So we're just going to get all these and get all the books, and so that way we can try out all the different spells. So actually jumping into Act 2. So basically one of the things I've learned, especially with looking at this character, obviously I skipped Act 1 just because I've done it so many times, and you don't really get to have the full ounce of power and everything with this. So one of the things I definitely learned when doing this sort of build is that, one, this thing has a sort of a smart class mechanic to where, you know, things will be finesse, and then if you switch the weapon to your main hand, you can switch it to intelligence. So this allows you actually a way of getting to rearrange and figure out what type of character you can want. One of the things I've noticed with the Succubus is that it really fits with all different types of classes, especially finesse and intelligence based ones, which is why there's multiple points in that. However, one of the things I did notice is that it is actually a little bit better to focus on just one attribute rather than both at the same time, unless you're really trying to go for a battle mage, but you're going to be kind of master of none at that point. It's really up to you. I specifically found that finesse was a little lacking compared to intelligence, but if I went full-blown finesse rogue with polymorph, it would be a little bit more fun. But the point of today's video is to really show you guys all the different spells that are in the arsenal and in the kit. So without further ado, let's actually look at some of these abilities. So actually jumping into the different abilities here, I kind of put them into different tiers based off of how their kind of overall playstyle is. Keep in mind that they are kind of all vastly different in their own little way. So jumping into it, we have Blow Kiss, which basically was the thing that adds the weakened status, which basically gets rid of a bunch of their strength and gets rid of a good amount of their damage. I believe when I added the weakened status, it was usually getting rid of 50% of their damage. So that is something to keep in mind, that it does actually decrease their damage. So it's a good status effect to add onto something if it is getting a little bit, you know, hard for your battle, or if you know that something is going to do almost a one-shot, it's nice to have that as kind of like a way to get rid of that. Now keep in mind that it is resisted by magical armor, so keep in mind that if you are with a mage in the group, it's very easy to focus on a target with them. Now next is Serenade, which basically puts them to sleep, stunning them from the battle, allowing you to do a lot more with it. Next is Seduce, which basically allows you to charm a target and make them fight for you for 2 turns. Now keep in mind that is also resisted by magical armor. Next is Perfume, which basically does the same exact thing, but keep in mind that it has a 50% chance of charming rather than a 100% chance of charming. And then on top of this, it does affect a area around you rather than this one, which affects a target at a time. So keep that in mind, and you can rotate the cooldown. So say like you have a certain target that you want to keep charming over and over and over again to help you out with a fight, you can try to cycle through with these two sort of rotations around the time. So another one is Attract, which basically pulls in somebody and then poisons them. So it's a really good ability, as it does piercing damage, which is one of my favorite damage types out there. It does say it's resisted by magical armor, but that's more of referring to the actual poison-based attack, not so much the actual piercing damage. Next is Dominatrix, which also does the piercing damage, and it gives you a bunch of life back. So that's a really good ability that allows a little bit of healing. Now the next one is Glamour, which is a alternative way of healing due to your talent of Leech, which explains why there's a Leech talent that was in there, which basically allows you to deal a good amount of damage, giving yourself a little bit of healing, giving yourself Vampiric Hunger, which gives you a power-up to your attack, which allows your enemy to also bleed, giving just a really awesome combo of adding Leech, plus your Succubus power of getting back some of that stuff, plus on top of it giving you a buff, plus on top of it giving him a debuff. Very powerful spell, and that's why it has a 6 cooldown. Now next is Cupid, which just basically allows you to get wings. So basically, once you get this, you can really get rid of the pawn sort of talent and switch to something else. That's one of the things I definitely was happy to see when going forward. Next is Flash as Sacrifice, which I chose with Sybil just because it was a really good one, basically just giving us an extra action point and some more damage. Now these two were really interesting. Get Lucky, which basically gets rid of Decay, Disease, Poison, Cursed, and Muted statuses. And then the other one I had here was Share the Love, which basically got rid of Stun, Frozen, Knockdown, Cripple, and Blind status effects. So one of the things you're going to really notice is that these ones over here are very mage-like, these ones right here are very melee-like, and these are kind of like a nice little kit in the mix, which are also really good for a support-based character. So obviously you're going to be kind of a support based off of whatever you do, but with the ability of changing your weapon and changing how your build goes, you can really kind of figure out what type of build you want to go for. So if you're going more mage, these abilities are awesome. If you're going more of the rogue and you're going to mix it up with some polymorph skills in the mix, these are the ones you're going to be going for. If you're going for more of a hydro list thing, you can go right here. Adds a lot of really good combos in the mix and a lot of things that you can really do when going forward. So without further ado, let's try this out on some people. Alright, so we're going to use Lose here as kind of like our test dummy. So we're going to do a good old Serenade. She has no magical armor or anything, so we can put her right to sleep. So boom, she's asleep, she can't move. Look at that. Boom. So that's a way of getting rid of her in the combat. Now let's... Alright, and let's see. Go ahead and we're gonna do good old Low Kiss, which is a nice little cone based attack. And let's actually look at that status effect and what it did to her. So weakened, which basically once again got rid of 50% of her damage. Now we could charm her. Charming doesn't really do anything though, as it would just make her kind of join our side in combat. But you guys get the general gist of how that works. And then perfume if we wanted to get a bunch of targets around us. Now let's do a different one. So let's do this one, Attract. This one's a really interesting one. So basically, if you were a melee base build, what it does is it pulls it towards you and it gives them a poisoned effect, giving them a debuff and on top of it, making it to where they're right in your area. Partner that up with the Torturer build, now this person has poison for 3 turns. So really awesome ability there. Now we're going to add a little bit of Flesh Sacrifice to add a little bit more on there. And let's do this. So we're going to do Dominatrix, which does piercing damage, and then on top of it give us a little bit of life, and on top of that should take away her weapon. Let's see if it actually does. It takes away her weapon. Awesome. So now she can't even attack us with that, and she's weakened, so she does probably a lot less damage, but she's a mage, so makes sense. Now, as you can see here, she does have the sort of a chill going on for her. But what we're going to do here is we're going to do Glamour. So we're going to go over here, do some damage, add some blood on the ground, a way of getting some different healing. We now have a good amount of lifesteal in addition to a lot of our other abilities here. We are going to also just do Serenade, put her back to sleep. So now she's back to being asleep again. I'm going to pop Cupid just to give myself some wings and some mobility. So as you can see here, we're just constantly taking away stuff. She doesn't have her weapon now, and we're going to weaken her again. So now she doesn't do much damage. She got stunned by her own stuff, and we can do an area effect spell. Charmed obviously failed because we're the only ones here. We'll end their turn, adding that extra action point. We'll end their turn again, just give us all the action points we need. And that way I can show you guys a little bit more. So then we can do this, Venus Flytrap, pull her in, give her that, do that, take away her weapon again. It failed. That's okay though. And we'll see if we can't put her to sleep. Oh, she's immune to sleep because she was stunned. Add an extra action point. She's too close, so we'll walk away a little bit, and then we'll do this. Charmed, so now she's on our side if we really wanted her to. So as you can see here, let's go here. She is charmed, so she switched sides technically. So let's see if we can actually add some different effects here. So we're going to add this, since she's now our ally. Give her encouraged. Do that. Now she's got rusted, and look at that. Now she's on her side. Now we're buddy-buddy. So anyways, guys, that was the Succubus sort of guide into this awesome mod. I highly suggest that you guys look at this mod when going forward. There's one for Definitive Edition, and there's one for the regular edition. Both work really well. However, if you do the Definitive Edition, there is another mod that you have to get. She has it on her page as well that you guys can check it out. I really like her mods. They're honestly just the best. They're one of the best ones out there, so I highly suggest that you guys check it out. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get back into Divinity Original Sin content, so if you guys actually do enjoy watching these guides and these sort of showings of these awesome classes, be sure to comment down below. I really would like to know if you guys want me to still continue making this content. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.